previously on beating Diablo 2 using a different skill every boss. In the next episode we are going to go with the Druid. And now we have to ask ourselves the real questions like, will the Druid do better? Will it do worse? Just how much worse exactly? Oh dear lord, why is it that awful? Wait, he is dying how often? Is he a noob? What is wrong with him? Why does he do this to himself? For those who haven't watched the Sorceress run, don't worry, I'll write this in a way that doesn't require you to know more than I found the Jalals on the Sorceress run. Which is why I decided to do the Druid next, cause this is a shared stash run. What I'm doing is working my way through all 7 classes while using a different skill for every boss. Now I know what you're thinking, not all classes have 15 different attacking skills, which is something I tried working around as much as I could figure out. The Druid, however, is not one of those classes. Between the double elements, the double wear forms and the summons we've got enough to work with. Now comes the hardest part though, figuring out which skill is going to be used in which act. I don't want to end up in a situation where I have to use Arctic Blast in Act 4 Hell, because that will be a very bad time for me. I know there is a group of people watching this that wants to see me suffer as much as possible. If you are one of those, don't worry. I'm going to have a plenty hard time as is. In the meanwhile, on the screen the Druid has entered Act 1 and is using the Firestorm skill. This is a fire skill that tosses out a bunch of fire in front of you to burn your enemies to a crisp. Most of the first act of the game isn't very hard and Firestorm is a good skill, so I didn't encounter any problems until I met Treehead Woodfist. In the early game I play on players 8, which means that the enemies have a bunch more health and as a trade-off they drop more loot and give more experience. Seeing as how I want to get to level 25 as fast as possible, it seems like an easy thing to do. Except for here, where Mr. Woodfist is casually following me around all the way from the Dark Wood, through the Black Marsh and finally catching up with me in the Tamo Highland in front of the door, killing me upon arrival. First death of the run, Act 1 normal before even getting to Andariel. Oh boy, it's going to be one of those runs. One quick revenge on the Brown Yeti, later I've acquired 60 strength, which allows me to wear the Saigon pieces I found on the Sorceress run. Saigons is one of the best ways to start the game. By becoming the White Knight you get a ton of extra stats including strength, increased attack speed, defense, all the relevant resistances, attack rating, damage to attackers, mana and last but not least 50% magic find. As you can tell from the Saigon's guard being in red still, I haven't found that yet, but even at 5 pieces this set is amazing. After dying in the first act I figured it might not be enough, so I decided to add a nice little ring with another 28% magic find as well, just to make sure I might find something cool. I talked about it in the Sorceress run, but just having early magic find just ends up in you finding so many more items, so you can extrapolate what is going to happen when I wear almost 80 at the start of the game. I don't need to do any farming for runes anymore, all of the ones I need in Normal and Nightmare have already been prepared, but I head into the tower anyway to snag some more levels on all the boss packs inside. The smith doesn't need to be dealt with either, but my choices are between me killing as little as possible and being revered as a wise and peaceful man, or well, not that, so on fire he goes. Because I have players 8 still going, the experience is just a crazy train. I'm able to level up all the way to 19 in Act 1. This is once again something I didn't need to do, but I really wanted to because Andariel is weak to fire, and I now get access to the Leaf Rune Word, which has +3 to fire skills, some cold resist, 2 mana after each kill, and if you would ever want to use this as a melee weapon, it's got the 50% racism to the undead covered as well. Don't worry though, we're gonna find some stuff that is racist to demons later in the run as well. We hate everyone equally here. I'm over-leveled, over-geared and overpowered, so a few firestorms later, the first boss, the first skill and the first act are a thing of history, and we get to move on towards act number 2. One sport I like doing is bowling, so for act 2 I decide to go for Molten Boulder, which has you hurling a molten boulder that is also on fire, cause boulders obviously burn very well. The inhabitants of Sanctuary, which is the name of the world Diablo 2 takes place in, are very bad at playing catch unless it's with their face, so I get the book of skills and a unique hunter's bow. The Wither String is a low level bow that fires magic arrows, nothing else matters about it. Even though I am all improv all the time, I did pick Molten Boulder for Act 2 for a reason, and that reason is the Maggot Lair. This very closed off area with long straight lines couldn't be more tailor-made for the Great Ball of Fire. So after shaking some nerves and rattling their brain, I grabbed the Staff of Kings and move on towards the halls of the Dead level 3 for the Horadric Cube. Complete the Act 2 Snagathon by picking up the Viper Amulet. The rest of Act 2 just isn't that big of a deal, despite all my foreshadowing about how awful things are going to get. Molten Boulder is just a good skill, so I deal with the summoner before heading to Telrash's crib. Despite Duriel causing lots of people's demise, the demon goes down like a bowling pin after just a few molten boulders thrown, bringing us to the end of Act 2. Act 3 is going to be a short one, cause I'm using Fissure. This is a huge area of effect spell that creates what is effectively a minefield made of lava, where everything runs in just to evaporate. This skill is amazing and it's very disappointing that I have to use it this early in the run. I wish I could use it later on, but I just couldn't make it work. If you can, good on you. Don't tell me though, no one likes a smartass. Along the way through the forest I pick up the Git bin, and as my reward I get a ring with a bit of attack rating, 27 light, 9 fire resistance and 10 magic find. For level 13, this thing is amazing and I'm going to be using this on multiple characters throughout this run. Fissure can't deal with fire immunes and there is always one in the Flayer dungeon level 3. I can just pretend I didn't see them though and ask which doctor before moving things along smoothly. If you missed the joke, the fire immune is called the witch doctor of something or another, and I asked which doctor. Yes, I do believe jokes get better when you explain them. Icehawk Riftwing saw how the fight against me was going and decided to just leave, so I got to pick up the heart without any further interruptions. Hierophants are priests of the Zakarum, which is all fine and dandy. What I do not agree with though is them just straight up doing nothing but healing each other. Sheer principle, I spam Fissure on them until they go down. I'm also using this moment to remind you to subscribe if you haven't yet. I don't know who told me, but I heard that your next high rune will drop soon. Ish when you're subscribed to this channel. Your subscription also gets rid of the Hierophants, so fun times all around. On level 24 I get access to this rare demon hide sash I found on the sorceress. This belt has 27 life, 15 lightning resist and 29 fire resist, giving me 71 great reasons to use it. In Travancore Fissure makes very short work of the council. They drop an Am rune which is absolutely wild this early in the game, but my runes and rune words were already prepared, so a bunch of wasted luck here unfortunately. It took me all of 15 seconds to burn Mephisto to a crisp. Act 4 is the first place where enemies start having higher fire resistance, which is why I wanted to get the fire spells out of the way early. The later on in the run, the more fire resistant and immune monsters you encounter, so I figured that I would just start with them to get them out of the way as fast as possible. To compensate a bit, I decided to use Volcano, which spawns a volcano that is erupting and throwing lava everywhere. This skill deals mostly fire, but also a little bit of physical damage to help out with the fire resistance that is starting to ramp up. Oh, also I killed Iswal. The Grand Vizier of Chaos is always fire immune. Fortunately, the Vizier has the defense of a pack of butter, so Volcano still makes short work of it. The rest of the Sanctuary and the final fight with Diablo were just easy. There was no way of saying it any other way. It was easy, I had no problems. So we are moving along to the final act of Normal. Don't worry though, I am going to work my way through Nightmare and Hell as well. There is much more suffering to come. For now though, things aren't too bad yet. The next skill I decided to run was Fire Claws. I wanted to do this while being a wolf, but instead of lining up with all the other wolf skills, Fire Claw receives a big damage boost from Firestorm and Molten Boulder. So it unfortunately makes much more sense to do this while playing as a Pyromancer. So for Act 5 Normal, we are running the base level 1 Fire Claws. I'm sure it will go fine and nothing will go wrong. To help myself out a bit, I switched to a Spirit Sword, which cost me a plus to my skills compared to the leaf I was using, but it does allow me to wear a rhyme, which has cannot be frozen and resistances. The fire damage turns out to not be as bad as I expected at all. To my surprise, I managed to defeat Shank the Overseer in just a few hits. One thing I had forgotten to do is to give the mercenary the 2 Saigon pieces, granting him the 10% life stolen per hit for much better survivability. As his weapon he is using an insight, granting me a meditation aura so I don't have to worry about mana at all. With Fire Claws doing much better than I would have expected, I take down Frozenstein without any problems, meaning that the cold-shouldered damsel in distress is saved, rewarding me with the highly coveted 10 resist all. Fire Claws keep surprising me against the Ancients. I thought this skill would be awful considering I have no skill points into it, but it's kind of crushing. So without much further nonsense, it takes care of the Ancients as well. Baal has a lot of fire resistance, but the fight went very well. All in all, I have been very surprised with just how strong Fire Claws was despite not having skill points put into it. That was a good time. One skill I wasn't worried about is Armageddon. This skill is amazing and another one I would have loved to use later on in the run. This skill has small meteors raining from the sky that when they hit an enemy deal fire and physical damage. This skill sees a ton of use on endgame fire druids, and for good reason. This skill is just a passive and massive amount of damage, which you can tell from just how easily it dealt with the Den of Evil. I know it's just the Den, but still, I don't know if it looks or feels better to play, but doing well in both regards for sure. My second encounter with Treehead Woodfist is much more enjoyable, with him going down off screen while I am making sure to grab the waypoint. I always make sure to save Kain in Nightmare because Akara gives you a rare ring as your reward. All in all, between the 5 per character, 1 for the normal Git bin, 2 for Kain and the Git bin in Nightmare and Hell each plus the ones I'm finding throughout the run, I'm going to end up basically drowning in rare rings, but that seems like a good problem to have. I do wish either the Kain or the Git bin quest would give an amulet, but beggars shouldn't be choosers, so double rings it is. The ring was not very good, but I might as well show it. For the rest of the act, a lot of things were very clear on how they would go. I run around a lot while monsters follow me around, not fully realizing just how bad of an idea that is when I am literally causing Armageddon to happen. Some of the routing in this run is just done on the fly. I was going to do the werewolf and werebear skills next, but this caretaker's amulet of the sentinel made me rethink my choices. I'll talk about it more in just a little bit. Let's finish out the fire skills first, which is almost easier done than said. Despite being surrounded by fire in her arena, Andariel just has no fire resistance, so a few moments of standing while Armageddon is happening everywhere later, Andariel becomes a volcano herself as another one bites the dust. 21 acts done, only 84 to go, easy peasy. Act number 22 starts off with a skill redistribution. I just found the +2 summons amulet, so I figured I might as well go and use the summons, which means that this time around I am getting my skill points into the wolves, raven and everybody's favorite bear. For Act 2 I decided to use the spirit wolves, these deal cold damage, which means that the undead who would normally be revived by the unravelers and Radamant in particular, get shattered, preventing all of that garbage. Their damage is on the low end of things, which is why I chose to do this in Nightmare and not in Hell. Also, Hell has cold immunes that we are going to not talk about. In the meanwhile, on screen, the wolves are done with their expired meal, and as a thank you, I get the Book of Skills. In the Claw Viper Temple, the wolves take care of some more respawning nonsense and decide to have Fangskin for dessert. While the wolves prefer to be in the throne room, they do fine in the maggot lair as well, because you can summon them at will. You can double their attacking power by always summoning as many of them as you can in between the enemies in here, negating the biggest downside of the maggot lair for summoning builds, which is that you can only get a 1 versus 1 going in there. The summoner finds out very up close that this way of dealing with the area works just as well in the Arcane Sanctuary. Duriel is about as much of a free fight as it will ever get in this challenge run. He deals a boatload of damage to our cute little doggos, but we are also just able to respawn them infinitely as long as we have mana. So after a while of this we take down the demon and are rewarded with one of the best mercenary weapons in the entire game, the Kelpie Snare. If you've watched my videos before, you'll know what is going on. But for the people new to the channel, this unique Fusina sports the most broken mod in the entire game. Slows target by 75%. This makes bosses move so slowly that they just literally break. What this does mean is that I am going to have to switch between the insight on my mercenary and this here Kelpie Snare for every single boss fight from now on. But that is a very good problem to have. For Act 3 I decided on using ravens, mostly because that way I at least get to attack multiple things at the same time, which is important with just how busy Act 3 can be. Characters are definitely divided on a power scale and the druid just seems to be on the luckier side of things for this challenge. So far every single skill I've used has been either good or great. The ravens turn out to be no exception to this as they pick away at everything in the forest, allowing me to easily claim the jade figurine for the 20 extra life it provides. Because one of the big things with the ravens is that enemies can't attack them. They are inherently kind of broken now that in Resurrected they have gotten actual damage. Which means that in the spider cavern they just devour everything they encounter cause nothing can fight back. But more importantly, after clearing it, I have reached level 42, which is of course the answer to everything in the universe, which means that it is also the level where I get to equip Jalal's main. This helm just has every single mod you could ever want, +2 to shapeshifting skills, 2 to druid skills, 30 faster hit recovery, some attack rating, 20 strength and energy, and to top it all of a whopping 30 to every single one of my resistances and 5 mana after each kill. This helm is iconic, it's amazing, I'm never taking it off this character ever. My head will melt into this thing and we will become one. If it wasn't clear, this thing is pretty good and the whole reason I decided to do the druid as the second one of these runs. The rest of Act 3 went very smooth. I picked up the Git bin and got another very solid early game ring as my reward. Dual res, mana and magic find. I like what Ormus is giving away today. I did some research and found out which doctor they meant. I didn't like them very much though, with the whole can't deal with them in normal. The ravens however don't use fire damage at all, so down goes the doctor. In the ruined temple, Battlemate Sarina drops me yet another rare ring to add to the biggest ring collection of all time. This time it's a casual level 1510 faster cast rate, 4 strength attack rating mana and 28 lightning resist ring. I don't know what to tell you, besides that good early game rings truly are a dime a dozen in this game. Ravens apparently like their council members with a big slice of cheese, cause they are just pecking them to death from a distance without the council fighting back at all. Despite how well the rest of the act went, the Mephisto fight turns into a huge mess when Y and Voidbringer joins the hunt. I don't know what it was, the hunger for grilled ravens, the blood of my druid, or just the dream of being the monster to take me down. It doesn't matter though, it always comes down to the ravens to clean up in these sorts of messes. With Wyand only bringing the void to himself and his chances of survival kicked out of the fight, the ravens quickly take care of Mephisto. In Act 4 I wanted to let the bear do its thing, however all it did was run around and hit things once, knock them back and then attack something else, allowing the first monster to recover, resulting in what is effectively just a loop of going nowhere fast. So while I had hoped to go one more act with the summons, it is time to switch and become a different build. It had been a while and I can't really say I was missing it quite yet, but it is time to become a wolf. This time not for the Fire Claw skill, but for all the other ones, being Feral Claw, Rabies and Fury. By process of elimination, I ended up deciding to run with Feral Claws for Act 4. I know there are a ton of poison immunes in the Chaos Sanctuary, which makes me not want to go Rabies, and Fury is actually good, so I don't want to waste it on such a short act. Feral Claws is the safest one of the bunch though. What this skill does is add just massive amounts of lifesteal to your attacks. It starts off at 4% lifesteal on the first hit and then keeps ramping up all the way to 64% life leech, meaning that every hit you deal you get 64% of the physical damage restored back to your life total. For my weapon I used a flash render that I found in the sorceress run, for its druid skills and giant wet dream of stats for a melee druid. I would use it if it had just the crushing blow, but it has everything else you want as well. At this point I'm just saying things to give you time to read the item if you want to. Gotta read fast though, cause we are moving on. Act 4 continues the trend of just not having a lot of problems yet, and yes, that is a subtle foreshadowing. Good on you for picking that up. So the Isual fight happens no problem. Nor do I encounter any problems while beating Hephasto in the River of Flame. As my Hellforge reward I end up getting a Shale rune, which means that it's a good thing I had fun beating Hephasto to a pulp, cause that ain't it reward wise. Despite not going Rabies for Act 4, I still end up getting cornered by the Venom Lords, forcing me to use a town portal to survive. Knowing that I can't exactly go back into that town portal without killing myself, I end up walking all the way from the River of Flame waypoint back to the Sanctuary to continue the fight. The demons manage to surround me yet again, however this time the Infector of Souls is in the front and with the help of Emilio for dealing damage and the Seal for making it so that only half the group can attack me. We manage to win the fight and move on to the Diablo fight, which, well, just isn't very hard. I had so little trouble that I didn't even notice that I forgot to switch Emilio's weapon to the Kelpie Snare until I was editing the footage. Nightmare Act 5 was where the druid wheels were starting to fall off, with us being done with the easy part of the game. It is now time to get into the hell preparation, grind and what else have you that is needed to complete things. Something I wanted to write was, I think I messed up here. But I don't think I did, because I know I massively fucked up by choosing Rabies for the hell prep. So why did I choose it? Well, I found this unique rune sword that has +5 to Rabies and I figured, how bad can it be? Well, let me explain. The damage on Rabies looks very impressive with 2.3 to 2.4k, but that is over 15.2 seconds, which gets you up to all of 154 to 160 damage per second. Now that doesn't sound all too bad at all, but at this point you're usually hitting for a couple hundred with melee attacks, and performing worse than a melee skill in Diablo 2 is never a good sign. My logic here was that because of the Rabies spreading, things would be fine, but as we can tell from the Dag Farron fight here, Emilio dies before the very frail demon does. Not a good sign at all. With Rabies doing about as well as everyone expected it to do, I decided to go dumpster diving a bit. I dug up a smoke and a steel driver. Both were hand-me-downs, but that doesn't give them any less resistance or damage. So with the best of both worlds, I dealt with some of the hardcore poison immunes to be found in Act 5 before making my way towards the Ariad Plateau. And I'm gonna be honest here for a bit, and it's going to be a shocking conclusion you have never heard before, with every other form of exaggerated clickbait ever on it for extra hype purpose. Here it is, my admission. Rabies sucks and I'm dying to everything. 3 random champion night clans? Death. Random monsters in the crystalline passage? Death. It looks like the game has had enough. The gloves have come fully off in all their sweaty glory. As a side note for those who have never worn boxing gloves, they are full on rank after using them. The smell is insane. I'd almost rather take the rabies. There was no denying it. I had to take the L and move back towards grinding Eldritch for levels. It didn't quite go as smooth as I was hoping though. Having to save and exit during your leveling session is definitely a vibe that I could have done without for the rest of my life. But here we are. One thing that might come to hurt me on later characters but will help me deal with rabies right now is that I decided to upgrade the steel driver from a Great Maul to a Martel de Fer. 203 to 330 damage with 40% increased attack speed, all for the low price of 85 strength. Don't mind if I do. I also decided to make a hearth for Emilio for the Cannot Be Frozen, Cold Resist, Life and Cold Absorb. With the added damage I was able to make my way through the Crystalline Passage and the Frozen River. Here I clashed with Frozenstein once again for the hand of everybody's fair resistance scroll, I mean lady. Anya took a stab and giving me something that might be worthwhile, but the beast shell was not it. I'm kinda happy she gave something bad though, cause I'd rather take a good helm on a run, where I don't have a Jalal's anyway. In the frozen tundra I ended up finding a Tigulated Mail, which is Wanen's armor. It's nothing too crazy, but it has chance to cast static on getting hit, which could be a fun little boost to my damage. I'm not expecting it to carry the world, but I'm playing a rabies druid, I need all the help I can get. It took me a while to do it, but I got my dog separated from the other sheeple on the mountain, where I managed to poison him with the rabies. He ran for his life towards his friends, but it was too late and he became the first of the 3 golden statues. Despite me helping Emilio tank, Talik and Kolik managed to chew through his life total. Now faced with the dire reality of having to fight a 2-on-1, which is only fair if I'm part of the 2, I had to take my attacks where I could get them, which meant that the rest of the fight became a game of dodge and weave while refreshing rabies as often as I could while waiting for the poison to do its thing, and after 5 minutes of this, the fight was over. In the Worldstone Keep level 3, I found my first co-rune, which the Hell Witches in the Throne of Destruction decided to celebrate by giving me massive fireworks upon entering and repeating my Wolves in the Throne Room reference, cause I'm a good rider and do callbacks like a pro. The Throne Room has random enemies, and exactly one of the things you can get in there is poison immune, so obviously I roll the Pit Lords, cause well fuck me I suppose. It's a good thing I have the physical damage from the steel driver to deal with them. When I needed to head back into town for the usual stuff of getting potions etc, I decided to make a hustle rune word. This rune word is one of my favorite additions they recently did to the game, cause it makes me run and attack really fast thanks to the 65% faster run walk and 40% increased attack speed. The 10 resist all is nice as well, I won't complain about that. The hardest part of dealing with the Baal waves was trying to lure out the Pit Lords that make up the 4th wave. They are poison immune like the earlier ones, so rabies doesn't do anything against them. It ends up with a few stragglers staying behind that I have to take care of manually with the help of Emilio. Baal's 5th wave didn't go quite as planned either. Lister and his minions aren't immune to poison, but they might as well be with the amount of damage I am dealing here. I need to lure these guys out as well. What I didn't realize though is that would involve me running back into the 4th wave. I ended up getting just stupidly lucky when I ran back. I managed to trigger Baal leaving in the microsecond I had over the waves getting back into the final chamber of the throne room. I still don't know why it triggered, but I am here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, not to ask questions. The Baal fight is the best way to show off just how ridiculously broken the Kelpie snare and its 75% slow are. As you can see here, Baal is moving so slow that he literally cannot even do his own attacks. He just wobbles to and fro a bit, which makes the entire Baal fight a slow ride, where we get to take it easy. We have to roll all night, but the slow riding demon goes down, and I am finally free from the shackles called rabies. With all the level grinding I've done, I figured there wouldn't be too many problems in hell, so I just went ahead and dove in. As always, the first thing when getting into hell is checking the stats. The life total is quite low, the fire resist could use some help for sure, and we are just going to ignore the poison resist, and the attack rating, and the defense. First things first. To make sure the Plague Bearer can never convince me to use rabies again, I sell it to Charcy. With that out of my system, it's time to move things along towards Fury, the only actual good skill on this part of the skill tree. This attack has the wolf slapping everything like he is their pimp and they haven't been paying up. Lots of damage, lots of attack rating. What's not to love? Well, the part where Corpsefire and his friends just casually kick my ass without even really trying comes to mind. These zombies turn out to be a harsh battle fought with tooth, nail and claw. In the end, I managed to take them down, but this shouldn't have been that hard fought at all. It's just Corpsefire after all. Continuing on with the act, I took down Rakanishu, ignored everything around the scroll of Inifus and took revenge on the poison immunes for that whole rabies debacle they had nothing to do with. Doesn't make it any less satisfying though. And help Kane down from his perilous position. The Shadow Coil ring I got as a reward wasn't worth it at all and went straight back to sender. In the outer cloister I get reminded that I'm playing a melee character when some random boss pack almost turns me into a rug that really ties the room together. I managed to escape at first, but another group of black rogues found me. I told myself I would never give me up and never let me down. There was just one little problem with this though. They didn't care about any of that and killed me. Despite having chugged a bunch of antidotes, Andariel is just playing whack-a-mole with my life total. Every single wave of poison is draining me bone dry. I end up spending the entire fight just mainlining full rejuvenations, a skill I got taught by an old friend from the first video and having worked my way through my entire supply of them. The bare naked lady went down for the count. She ended up dropping a unique ring. It could be brown, it could be blue, it could be violet sky, it could be hurtful, it could be purple, it could be anything I like, and what I really like is the Stone of Jordan. This is not a drill, I repeat, this is not a drill, we have found a Stone of Jordan. This iconic item isn't just a ring, it's a statement. Every curve, every facet of this tells a story of elegance and strength. Slip it on and you're not just wearing jewelry, you're wearing confidence, ambition, plus the skills and extra mana. All wrapped in a touch of timeless beauty. The Stone of Jordan isn't just a ring, it is the ring. And we've got it now. All we've got to do is stay out of Sauron's sight, and seeing how he is in a fully different franchise that has nothing to do with any of this stuff. That shouldn't be very hard to do. With Act 1 done, it is time to move things along towards Act 2. At this point I am starting to kind of run out of skills and have to start scraping the bottom of a barrel. I have been dreading this part of the run. We've had the best, and rabies, and now it's time for the rest. It is time for Maul. I've done a video where I didn't shit on this build at all before. Just to make it clear though, it's not exactly my favorite skill in the game. I think it's a massive dumpster fire and I wish I had any other place to use it, but things just lined up like this. Which is very poor considering Act 2 is filled to the brim with monsters that have high physical defense or are just straight up immune. I was kind of okay with almost every other skill so far, but having to do Maul in Act 2, hell is just hell. Maul is a werebear skill that has you slapping things and stunning them. I wish there was more to it so I could at least pretend it was hype for a fleeting moment. But that's just all it does. You swing your arm at the enemy and they get stunned cause they just got punched by a bear. I don't know what else to tell you. Oh wait, yes I do. This skill is bad and has no area of effect whatsoever. So when I'm in the Claw Viper Temple and encounter a room full of fanaticism boosted monsters, all I can do to even have a chance to get through it is to just run and hope for the best. I even make it through the door to the next room, but in the next room I have to town portal out anyway. I decide that clearing my way through the entire temple one monster at a time is the unfortunate way to go. So Emilio and I start working on that. While trying to make a safety town portal for the second level, I almost die to 3 random salamanders that are just kind of there. Cause it's their home I'm burglarizing after all. After running back to town to grab myself an Emilio, I finally make it into level 2. Here I get trapped between the door and yet another group of salamanders. These turn out to be cursed as well, forcing me to retreat. On the second attempt at a run through, I see a hole in their defenses, allowing me to squeeze through and make a clean break for the Claw Viper amulet. Seeing just how bad all of this is going, I decided to use one of the socket quests I had left on the sorceress on a white thresher, which gives it 5 sockets, making it a great item base for either the honor runeword or the obedience runeword. I will talk and show those when I make them, but I just wanted to include the creation of the potential base. In case someone was going to wonder later on in the series how I suddenly ended up with a 5 socket thresher, this was how I got that. Maul truly is the gift that keeps on giving. In the maggot lair I end up in a very familiar situation where I have to work my way through every single enemy one at a time. In here it does show that the bear is great at tanking, cause despite the damage being low I am never in any danger. The problem with the maggot lair is that it is hard to evade enemies. I rediscover this firsthand when I try to skip a room and get stuck between 2 beetles, netting me another juicy save and quit for the road. On my second go through I encounter Sharphorn. This very dense beetle has stone skin, which turns him into a physical immune. This is a massive problem with the whole part of Maul, where it deals only physical damage, meaning that the only damage I am dealing to this beetle is the damage from my charms and added effects, and as you can tell on screen, that damage is not doing well. Instead, I lure him away from his friends, allowing me to do a circle around him and get on with my life. In my hubris though, I forgot that on a deep psychological level, this game hates you and wants you to suffer. So not even one hallway later, I encounter Doom Hack the Cold, another stone skin and thus physical immune beetle. This time however, I am quite literally stuck between a rock and a hard place, with my choices being either spending until eternity opens here whacking this guy with all I've got, or just re-rolling the maggot lair for the third time. Both of these are as awful as they sound, but I know which one I'm picking. I'm just not emotionally ready for the go again at the maggot lair, so instead I decided that the bear got a cold, which is why he looks a bit different, and I went farming in the Nightmare Terror zones. I don't know for what or why, but everything is better than going straight back into the lair. The kids may yearn for those mines, but I sure don't. During this I found one of the best melee helms in the entire game, the Set Death Mask, which is the Tal Rasha's mask. This helm, while pretending to be for a caster, has a ton of life and mana, 10% dual leech and 15 resist all. The best part about it is that this ended up being the helm for the sorceress set, cause we all know that Blizzard has their favorite child, and while the kids of melee characters head straight down into the darkness to get cracking, the kids of casters get heftily rewarded for breathing even the smallest gulp of air, so even the melee items go to them. But make no mistake about it, this helm is a melee item through and through. With the bear having shotgunned a bottle of cough medicine, he is back to his old self and feeling empowered to head back into the narrow maggot-filled corridors. The grinding turned out not to be in vain, with the new gear upgrade upping my survivability enough to make my way through every single beetle down there. On level 3 I encountered some more physical immunes, but they aren't too bad at all thanks to them being frail enough to just go down from my random extra damage that I picked up along the way. There was one little problem here though, or should I say lots of little problems. The black locusts managed to stall for time enough that the entire final chamber had turned into a massive wall-to-wall room filling pile of bullshit. Seriously, the entire room basically turned into a massive Zergling rush, and if anyone was wondering where all the maggots in the other acts are coming from, this is where they dug up the bugs. I love being smart, and I love sounding smart even more. This time I can't though, there is no smart or sexy way of getting through this. All I can do is start whacking every maggot one at a time until I reach the chest with the Staff of Kings and get out of there. Never to think about this place again. Well, for the rest of this character at least. At the start of this act I mentioned how unfortunate it is that I ended up having to use Maul in Act 2 because of all the physical immunes. I've introduced a few of them to you already, but the biggest collection is in the Arcane Sanctuary. Every, and I mean every, single ghost here is physical immune. Is that why they are single? I do not know. The only thing I know is that I want to get away from here as fast as I can. Wait, no. I didn't mean with a save and exit. I want to find the summoner and get out of here. No. Like I said, not by quitting. I want to actually complete the quests. Maybe a new mercenary will help. Hello world, I would like you to meet Emilio. Never mind, it didn't help. Wait, could this be the time? The time spoken of for generations? The time where an Act 3 mercenary could be useful for the first time ever? I doubt it. But I'm still here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and at this point all I'm doing is getting my ass kicked into the bubblegum, making it get stuck around my butt fur, which hampers things quite a lot. So all in all, a pretty sticky situation. Having written that epoch about bubblegum clogging up my ass hair, which won't be my last shitty epoch, I guarantee that much. It is time to wave goodbye to the old and welcome Jelani to the team. The Arcane Sanctuary doesn't have any lightning immunes, that is why I picked the mercenary that is based around lightning. Sometimes things just aren't complicated. As with any person starting any job ever, he gets some old crap I had laying around, those being a rhyme, a spirit, a stealth and a lore. Back in the Arcane Sanctuary, it turns out that indeed this was the time. Jelani manages make his way through every single enemy MC Escher throws at us. Well, okay, most of them, but still he is doing a whole lot fucking better than I was on my own, so no complaints here. Jelani, with my help of course, he never could have done any of this without me, manages to work his way through the Arcane Sanctuary for a meet and greet with the summoner. Next up, Tal Rasha's tomb. In here we get lucky. The literal first thing that gets on the screen is the exit. Worst hiding place ever? Maybe. My lucky break? Absolutely. The only thing I had to make sure of in here is that the big burly men in the corner couldn't get near me. I might be a bear, but I'm not their bear, so I quickly put the staff in the hole. Extend the voiceover for this part a bit more to stall for time so everything syncs up nicely in the video, and head into the Duriel fight. At first I tried tanking him, cause you would think a massive bear would be able to do so. However, you would be wrong, there is no way this is going to work out, especially considering I am just out of rejuvenations and Duriel is stocked fully on damage. To solve my problems, I wave goodbye to the old and say hello to the new. Jelani's are out and his Kelpie snares are all the rage again. This time I didn't write in advance about how I used the Kelpie snares slow to break the boss, only to then figure out during editing that I screwed up. This time I did it right. I gave Jamali the Kelpie snare, gave him my hustle for some added attack speed, and let him showcase just how broken slow is. Instead of having a lot of trouble tanking Duriel, I go down to mostly not having trouble, which says more about this build than about Duriel at this point. Good thing I didn't die though. Dying on a boss that is only doing a quarter of his usual damage at a quarter of the usual speed would be very embarrassing. I would never do that. While I am just stumbling and fumbling everything here, Jamali has his eye on the ball, allowing me to get into the cold darkness to grab my vital remains, letting me rejoin the fight. It took a lot, and I mean a lot. Truly, not an exaggeration when I say a lot. Of trips back to town. Did I mention there were a lot of those yet? Might be even more than that. A whole lot more. Even Jamali ended up sacrificing himself for the greater good. But in the end, it was all me all the time that first try got the job done. And as my reward, a bunch of town portals dropped to the floor, allowing me to get as far away as I possibly can from this skill. With me now being fully out of skills that require me to transform. And yes, I know Shockwave exists, but the developers thought it was too fun, so they ruined it on purpose after accidentally making it fun. So it doesn't deal any damage anymore. For the final 3 acts I am passing wind, that is to say that I am going to be using the wind skills. It is earth, wind, fire, water and heart after all. I have no clue what the water is supposed to be. Maybe the bear needed to take a piss or something, I don't know. But by their powers combined, the power is mine. I had never used Twister, and if there is ever a time for experimentation, it's in one of the final and hardest acts in the game. Twister has you shooting several whirlwinds. No, not the barbarian skill, we will get to that in a few videos. The Druid's whirlwinds are more like Tornado's little brother that is actually capable of hitting things. Not only that, but it stuns them as well. This skill basically plays like Shockwave before they, in their infinite, let's call it wisdom, yeeted every snap of relevancy it ever had out of the game. The damage is on the lower end of things, but who needs lots of damage when you can stun entire screens? Seriously, you can play this entire act with a feeling of superiority, normally only seen in paladins pretending they don't love being Blizzard's favorite. Throughout the entire forest, nothing can stand in my way, so after making my way to the end of the jungle, Stormtree gets a few seconds of screen time before being told to take stage exit down. I head into the Flayer dungeon where out of the goodness of my heart I decide to take care of every single fire immune champion shaman I encounter. Not because I need to, but because the thought of that one dickweed in normal still annoys me and I will never let it go. Of course, this time around I also make sure to take care of the witch doctor. I am nothing if not thorough. In the spider forest I end up finding one of my favorite items in the entire game. The blade of Alibaba isn't good, but it's definitely great. As with every melee weapon, the damage on it is awful. The big thing this has going, however, is the magic find per level, meaning that it nets me 74% magic find, making it the ultimate weapon switch for everyone trying to find some loot. In the spider cavern, I don't even make it to Kalim's eye, courtesy of 2 physical immune spiders that are cursed as well. They allow me to take a gracious exit, but still a disappointing result considering how well the rest of this act has been going so far. The second time around, nothing gets in my way, so I have a great time stun locking everything to Kingdom Come. That is until Sark decides that I should eat dirt for a second. I was smart enough to make a safety town portal, so after having Jamali distract the angry arachnid, I get the chance to sneak around to get my corpse in the eye. The rest of the quests go smoothly, proving that Twister is yet another of those underrated skills no one ever uses because the DPS on Tornado is higher. I love it though, this is great and yet another recommendation if you've never tried it. Also imagine having this on a melee character as an added trigger to your attack, the crowd control dream. One of the hardest fights in the entire game is the Council. This group of goopy grimers took some thinking and strategy, but once I had them right where I wanted them, and was able to stun lock them down like all the others. Netting me the flail needed to open up the durance of hatred. Usually, this is the part where I go into a giant rant about how dogshit this place is. However, I got the greatest map of all time and got to skip all of the nonsense here. If I'm honest, couldn't have happened to a nicer person. The Mephisto fight went very well. Seriously, this skill is good and you should give it a try. Towards the end, I switched to the Blade of Alibaba that I had put a few hell runes into to lower the requirements, and with the added 75% extra magic find, I managed to drop 3 shitty uniques no one cares about and a quest item. Which means it is time for the penultimate act, Hell itself. For this act I had 3 choices: Tornado, Arctic Blast or Hurricane. Now I figured that if I was able to do it with Arctic Blast, I could use both of the others for Act 5, making an easy time, as that would be the most dank and divine Druid build of all time. So it's off to the races with Arctic Blast, and oh boy did that horse never leave the stable. If you are still here watching and seeing this, first off, thank you very much. I'm happy my videos give you joy. Second off, if you're sitting there watching and thinking to yourself, I've never used Arctic Blast before, is it any good? No, it is not. It is complete fucking garbage. If you could bring your attention to your second monitor for a bit, yes, the one where this video is playing. On that monitor you see a druid struggling to deal even the slightest sliver of damage to a group of random enemies that should be blasted out of the stratosphere by even looking at them. Yes, ladies and gentle ladies, it is still going. You know the pixels burning into your TV if you leave it on too long. Arctic Blast is so slow it causes those. Because of this I decided to use Hurricane for Act 4. With that information shared, your eyes are no longer needed on the second monitor and you can continue on with your day. What is there to say about Hurricane? Well, Hurricane isn't perfect either, but it is the so-called bee's knees compared to what Arctic Blast pretended to be doing out there. On the hot or not scale, this registers as very cold. So cold in fact that everything that comes near you is damaged by your freezing aura. No need to attack during this act, all I'm going to have to do is run around until everything falls over. A very typical Dutch excuse for being late is that the bridge was open and you couldn't pass. I, however, seem to have the opposite problem, where the bridge is so closed off with cold immunes I can't pass. The second trying this, there were only lightning immunes and I had no problems getting through, granting me access to the Plains of Despair. Everything here went all sorts of smooth and swimmingly, except for the part where I managed to get myself surrounded by cold immunes and stuck in a corner. This wasn't Hurricane's fault, I just suck at running in a straight line. Figuring that getting through the river of flame at all was better than not doing that, I decided to go back to my tried and true strategy of dealing with one monster at most. I know ARPGs are cool because you get to be powerful and obliterate entire screens at a time, but doesn't this look just as fun? Along the way through the river of flame, my miasma of mesmerizing combat is momentarily stopped by Myrmidon Greaves falling on the floor. I'm gonna assume most people don't even know this item exists, and for good reason. These are Shadow Dancers, the heaviest of boots that even with minus 20% requirements need you to have 167 strength. That is such a monumental strength requirement that if the Mafia ever runs out of concrete shoes, they could use these things instead. The roll on these is bad, it can get +2 to Shadow Disciplines. Now having a random level roll wouldn't be too bad if these boots weren't crazy rare. They have a 1 in 500,000 chance of dropping from that Maul Fiend, and I know big numbers don't mean shit to most people. So for comparison, these boots are as rare as a Wind Force, a Grandfather, a Mang Song's Lesson or a Death Cleaver. Can you imagine finding a Wind Force and then seeing it has no physical damage on it? Or a Grandfather without stats? Or your Mang Songs rolled with only +1 to skills instead of 5? Well, that is what happened here. I know what you're thinking now. Well, at least they aren't ethereal. Can you imagine finding something like this or a Death Cleaver only to pick it up and realize it's rolled the 1 in 20 chance of being ethereal? Online Zod runes aren't too bad, but offline, it's an almost unfixable nightmare. Ethereal Death Cleaver does make for a sick Iron Golem, but that is a story for a future video. We have the better part of 2 acts left to clear here, so let's get back to that. One of the biggest problems with not attacking is that your enemies do not follow this mantra at all. They will see you not attacking and think to themselves, yes, he would taste good with ketchup made out of his own blood, and will then proceed to smash you to death. Jamali comes in clutch here yet again, as he is able to fix the mess I ran through in the hope to spend 5 minutes of my life less looking at Hurricane slowly whittling away at enemies. I can't remember if I mentioned this in the Sorceress video, so I'll just say it again. Mercenaries are allowed during this challenge for the simple reason that I couldn't find a way to complete it without them. Normal and Nightmare are always manageable on every class, but Hell just has too many immunities, and going down that path would only lead down to a life of exile and despair. I would love to write a part about how bad the Chaos Sanctuary was and woe is me and everything in here was terrible. You know, the spiel we've all heard before, but I can't. It wasn't too bad at all. Now don't get me wrong, it wasn't perfect, but it just wasn't that bad. Most of the monsters can be lured and tanked to the small corridors at the entrance, where Jamali can take the wheel and keep them at bay while we work together to clear them out. The cold immunes he had no problem dealing with at all. Seriously, I watched that man put in the work. I'm surprised the cold immunes even kept showing up after they saw the bloodlust in Jamali's eyes. How he doesn't have a hernia from carrying so hard I will never know, but I thank him dearly for it. Nothing was safe from him, not random boss spawns that were all cold immune, nor the Oblivion Knights or even Lord Desays. They were all just loot in their pre-loot forms to him. If I was a betting man, and I very much am, I would have lost money on how hard Jamali would clear out the Chaos Sanctuary. It took him 10 to 15 minutes, but nothing survived. Using Hurricane to take down Diablo is about as fun as watching grass grow. I'm just going to ramble here a bit so I have time to show some of the footage, but there was just nothing to this fight except wait and wait some more until his life total reached 0 and we could move on. Here we are, the final part of the story, the finale, the climax if you will. For this we are using Tornado. Tornado is the de facto Druid casting spell. Normally you combine it with Hurricane, but we can't do that. I know it's been a while since we talked about it, but we used it before. As the de facto Druid spell, Tornado deals a lot of damage. I'm talking thousands of physical damage penetrating multiple enemies like it's not a school night. Yes, that is as good as it sounds. It's not perfect though. You see, the Druid has spent too much time watching really weird things online, and now his eyes are ruined and his aim is terrible. I get why the developers did this. It's a tornado and you can't control where a tornado goes. But this is a video game and I want my spells to hit. The pathing on Tornado is so awful that I think this skill would miss the planet if you aimed straight down at your feet and fired at will. Maybe the best thing to aim at would be the backside of your own skull, so it would fly straight at the enemies like a gravity-defying toaster. With that rant out of the way, I forgot to do the Hellforge, so I backtracked a bit and it gave me an Ist rune. It won't rot in my stash forever at all. The Bloody Foothills show once again just how much worse a character build this way is than playing an actual good build. I managed to lose experience and gold against a bunch of random quill rats. Now don't get me wrong, those are some dangerous rats, but this should not be happening. The Druid's bad eyes catch up to him in the fight against Shank, who sees this and just thinks to himself about how you've got to help those weaker in society. So he walks into the attack to do me a favor before I walk up to him and attempt to blow him down using the tornadoes, but I forgot my glasses at home. It takes some more repositioning, but in the end, the true adage of gaming rings true once again. No matter what your problem is, if you throw enough damage at it, it will go away. One of the best drops I could have ever hoped for happens at Eldritch in the form of said Bramble Mids. Remember all the way back at the start forever ago? Anyway, remember that. When I said that we hated everyone equally here, it was a lie. We hate demons way more. There is nothing more racist to demons in the entire game than these gloves. Look at this shit. 350% racism to demons on gloves. To whoever came up with these, I'm sorry for whatever the demon did to you. But I'm glad it happened. These gloves kick ass and chew bubblegum. But they don't have teeth, cause they are gloves, so they can't chew bubblegum. So they never bought any in the first place. The laying of hands do exactly what they are named after. These also have 20% increased attack speed and 50% fire resist. Whoever made these really just decided that today was the day he was going to be wearing his demon shitting pants. Well, these are gloves, but you know what I mean. Best in slot for lots of melee builds in the game. Very happy I picked a pair of these up, cause you sure can lay some hands with these. During this farming session for potions, I also picked up a Rattle Cage, which is an armor that has Crushing Blow and the set Chaos armor, which is Trangul's armor. More on that in the Necromancer run though, which might be the next one. It might not be, who knows? Well, me. But for now, there is even more doubt to be sown, as in the Frigid Highlands I end up finding matriarchal javelins. I spent hours making sure I would not have to go through Act 3 hell with a lightning based Amazon. But low rune and behold, here we are. Doing the lightning immune act with these is going to be awful, but I'm not ignoring the best javelins in the game, so the next one might be the Amazon. Might be the Necro though. Or the Barb. Not like I found anything useful for him, but he still could be. I digress. Thunderstrokes are literally the best unique javelins in the game, so you will see me go through Act 3 hell with a lightning Amazon at some point. At this point I've kinda stopped caring what the next character will be though, as long as it's not this fucking Druid, cause I am just dying everywhere. The wheels have fully come off, the cart has crashed into a tree, for some reason it also caught on fire and he finds he has herpes as well. While going the wrong way in the glacial trail, for some reason I end up at Bonesaw Breaker, a unique zombie who I am going to murder in seconds. Upon completing that task I am rewarded with the unique wrist sword. The Jade Talon has more skills than those boots, 30 faster hit recovery, lots of mana stolen, and 44 resist all, making it a sure thing to use in the assassin run. To be able to go to that we have to wrap things up here though. In the Ancients way I take another tried and true RNG manipulation tactic, which in tried and true fashion, Jamali helps me out of again. It seems to have worked. The fight with the Ancients went much smoother than getting to them. There is not much to talk about here. It takes a few tornadoes, but without further Upsmuk Korlik, then Talik and finally Madhawk all taste the bitterness of defeat. Only a few zones remain before this part of the challenge is completed. The Worldstone Keep level 2 gives it the old college try by giving me some souls to work through, but they don't have a lot of physical defense, so the battle is over before it even began. On level 3 I found an item that shares its name with my favorite Magic the Gathering card. I get why this is named Blood after the Blood Golem charges, but what is the moon part of this? Is it the shape of the blade? All in all, this is a decent sword with its 242 damage, 13 lifesteal, 50% chance of open wounds and 8 life after each kill. A solid contender for a melee run later on. Level 3 also grants me a rare heavy belt that has 29 lightning and 26 fire resist with 59 life. It would have needed 10 more life to be absolutely perfect, but this is still a god tier belt. I won't be replacing this anytime soon. In the Throne of Destruction there is always a random selection of enemies. These can be dolls, they can be souls, they might be deathlords, but for today's fun trick it's Doom Knights, Oblivion Knights, Unravelers and souls. I had never thought about this combination before, but fighting it now it might be one of the worst combos of all time to get here. What I am trying to convey here is that things are not going well. This druid is struggling. Also note that when we are winning it's all me, and we or us meaning you the viewer and me the writer of this stuff. But when the druid starts losing, he starts losing. It's a subconscious way of letting you know that none of this nonsense is my fault and there is nothing I could have done. The souls deal a crap ton of lightning damage without needing help. That isn't enough for the Oblivion Knights though. They will gladly spam lower resist on me. While struggling with that, every single enemy I take care of gets revived again by the Unravelers. What a vile spawn of enemies. Dealing with this can only be done in one way. We are going to face tank the souls while being lower resisted, so we can get rid of the Unravelers first. This is the only way to do this, because everything else would just get revived. With the Unravelers taken behind the shed, there are only 6 things left to do, of which 5 are the Baal waves. Compared to Nightmare though, this was easy street. The Wind Druid isn't known to be a good Baal runner, but it actually does very decent at it. So in contrast to Nightmare, I take down all the waves, especially the 4th one, cause I am a vengeful god after all, and head into the Baal fight. I've told this part a million times, but I'll tell it again. Kelpie Snare just breaks this fight. This time I even actually equipped it, so he can't fight back at all. The tornadoes just run him through until his life total ticks down. The hardest part of this fight is that I need to remember to equip the Blade of Alibaba for the extra magic find before his life pool ends. He drops a Kuko Shakaku, which always shoots explosive arrows and is an amazing bow in general, but that's it. The Druid part of this run is over. With Baal defeated and the Druid run done, it is time to think about what the next class I'm doing will be. Is it going to be the Necromancer, the Amazon, the Assassin? I found items for all 3, so who knows. Or maybe I'll just do another Sorceress run and gaslight everyone into thinking I haven't done that one yet. Or I could play Barb. Nobody knows. The video is over now though, so a big thank you to all the channel members and Patreon members, the people using my affiliate links, and most importantly you, the viewer, for still being here after this long as balls video. With that, I'm going to say Nuclear Rabbit out, and I will see you all in the next one.